Good morning, class. Okay, so today we're going to be reading Act 2 of Julius Caesar. We're going to read that together. So I need you to go ahead and take out your textbook, if you can, and you need to turn to page 841 in your book. We're going to start with Act 2, Scene 1. And let me set this scene up for you just a little bit. So we're going to see Brutus. He's going to be at his house. And there's a servant that comes in and is talking to him named Lucius. So they're going to talk a little bit. Brutus has to figure out what he's going to do about all the things that Cassius was telling him in Act 1. Remember that Brutus has been a supporter of Caesar up until now, and Cassius is not a supporter of Caesar. So Cassius wants very much to kind of make Brutus come to his side of the way that some of the senators are beginning to look at Caesar. Some of them believe that Caesar must be stopped at this point. So they see Caesar as a threat. Caesar must be stopped. Now, please understand, we have no way of knowing what Caesar would have done if Caesar was made basically a king or a monarch of some kind in Rome. We have no idea what he would have done with that, if he would have been a good ruler, if he would have been a bad ruler, because remember, Caesar is brought down at the point that all of this is kind of happening. So we don't know, but for these senators, they very much don't want Caesar in charge of Rome by himself. Now, I will tell you also, I'm going to have to break this scene up. Act 2, Scene 1 is a very long scene. It's about, I think, 19 or 20 minutes by itself. So I'm going to try to let it play through, and probably when I get to about the 10-minute mark, I'm going to try to see if there's a nice, easy place to cut that video footage so that I can upload these nicely, okay? So that's going to be happening where I'm trying to kind of cut it in half, but I'm still going to be explaining everything as we go along. So please read. Don't forget that in your book, you have all of these little sidebars where you have words that are explained to you. You have, it's just kind of describing all of the terms that they're using, some of the things that are specific about Rome and Roman society of the time that we might not understand because we don't live in Roman society. So just make sure you're kind of looking through those. You have the opportunity to pause the video at any point, okay? So if you're like, wait a second, what did they just say? And you need to pause it, go ahead. Go back and look at that, look at the side comments, and then kind of continue, okay? So just use your abilities well whenever you're listening and reading along with this, okay? Okay, I'm going to begin with Act 2, Scene 1, page 841.
I cannot, by the progress of the stars, give guess how near today. Lucius, I say! Would it were my faults to sleep so soundly. When, Lucius, when? Awake, I say. What, Lucius?
Called you, my lord?
Get me a taper in my study, Lucius. When it is lighted, come and call me here.
I will, my lord.
Okay, so just a note, Brutus seems to be having trouble sleeping. This is the night before the Ides of March. Okay, so this is like the night before everything's about to happen in the Senate. The things that we know already historically will happen in the Senate. So Brutus is having trouble sleeping that night. He's alone. He's in his home. Lucius is his servant. He can't sleep. Now think about some of the times whenever you can't sleep. What's going on? Is there a problem that you're kind of mulling over? Your mind won't let you settle down? Are there some things you're stressed out about? A lot of times whenever we can't sleep, it's not necessarily due to just insomnia. It's actually that there's something on our mind that we can't really get peace about. That's where Brutus is at. Everything that Cassius was talking to him about is kind of floating through his mind, and he doesn't know what he should do. Okay.
It must be by his death. And for my part, I know no personal cause to spurn at him, but for the general. He would be crowned. How that might change his nature? There's the question. It is the bright day that brings forth the adder, and that craves weary walking. Crown him. That. And then I grant madness is when it disjoins remorse from power. And to speak truth of Caesar, I have not known when his affections swayed more than his reason. But 'tis a common proof that lowliness is young ambition's ladder, whereto the climber upward turns his face. But when he once attains the utmost round, he then unto the ladder turns his back, looks in the clouds, scorning the base degrees by which he did ascend. So Caesar may, then lest he may, prevent. And since the quarrel will bear no colour for the thing he is, fashion it thus, that what he is, augmented, would run to these and these extremities, and therefore think him as a serpent's egg, which hatched would, as his kind, grow mischievous, and kill him in the shell.
Okay, let's pause for a second. So Brutus is kind of talking a lot of things about Caesar. Let's look at this more closely. I'm going to look back at the beginning of Brutus's speech there that begins on 841. So he says, it must be by his death, and for my part, I know no personal cause to spurn at him, but for the general. He would be crowned. How that might change his nature, there's the question. So the people want to crown Caesar. They want to make him a monarch. Rome has been a place that's been a government that's been led by several men for a while now, and they don't want to go back to a monarchy where just one guy and one guy's whim is what everything hinges on. I mean, we can see that. We don't necessarily like the idea of having a monarch in our country, so we can relate to that a bit. But he says himself how that might change his nature. There's the question. I, Brutus, don't know how becoming a king will change Caesar's nature. And that's a fact. Brutus has no idea. Brutus is just thinking about it right now. He's just analyzing what it could do to Caesar's nature. He knows nothing. It's a pretty dark thing to think that we know something, we know more about another person than they do, and to assume that if they were put in a position of authority or a position of power that they would be terrible. That's a pretty big assumption to make. And so that's the assumption that he is beginning to make about this person he previously supported, and all because Cassius was talking badly about Caesar. Man, we don't want to be manipulated by other people, do we? That's terrible. Okay, he goes on. He says, it is the bright day that brings forth the adder, the snake. Now, snakes have symbolic meaning. Snakes are always bad. Think Garden of Eden. We have this idea of a serpent. We think snake. We think Satan. Okay, so we have that. The bright day brings forth the adder. He's calling Caesar a snake. And this bright day of Rome, where they're wanting to make him a monarch, will make Caesar a snake. Man, that's pretty strong. He talks about crown him, and then I grant we put a sting in him that at his will he may do danger with. So if we give him a crown, we give him like a stinger. Think of like a wasp or a bee. We suddenly impart this normal everyday insect like a fly with a stinger where now it can harm instead. So that's really scary. Talks a lot about this ladder of ambition that Caesar is on. We all know Caesar has ambition. Certainly, he's a military leader. He's powerful. He has a great deal of ambition on his own. That is not unknown. But will the ambition make him a really bad leader if he gets more power? Who knows? No one can know because we never got to that point. So he talks about that Caesar needs to be prevented from gaining that power. So he says, therefore, think of Caesar as a serpent's egg, which hatched would as his kind grow mischievous and kill him in the shell. So we need to think of Caesar as a serpent that's going to hatch, a snake that's going to hatch, and it's going to consume when it hatches. We need to kill that snake before it can consume, is what he's saying. All on his own, before he even talks to their conspirators again. That's where Brutus is at right now. Okay, we're going to have some more conversation.
The taper burneth in your closet, sir. Searching the window for a flint, I found this paper, thus sealed up, and I am sure it did not lie there when I went to bed.
Put you to bed again. It is not day. Is not tomorrow, boy, the Ides of March?
I know not, sir.
Look in the calendar and bring me word.
I will, sir.
What day is it? This happens all the time in
The
class.
exhalations whizzing in the air give so much light that I may read by them.
Okay, Bruce is opening this letter.
Brutus, thou sleepst. Awake and see thyself. Shall Rome, etc. speak, strike, redress. Brutus, thou sleepst. Awake. Such instigations have been often dropped where I have took them up. Shall Rome, etc. Thus must I piece it out. Shall Rome stand under one man's awe? What? Rome? My ancestors did from the streets of Rome the Tarquin drive when he was called a king. Speak, strike, redress. Am I entreated to speak and strike? Oh, Rome, I make thee promise, if the redress will follow, thou receivest thy full petition at the hand of Brutus.
Sir, March has wasted 15 days.
'Tis good. Go to the gate, somebody knocks.
Okay, let's talk about this note that Brutus got. So Brutus receives this note and it says, Brutus, you're asleep. Wake up and see yourself. Shall Rome, etc., shall Rome and everything that Rome touches speak, strike, redress. Brutus, you're asleep. Wake up. So Brutus is reading this and he's like, what does this mean? And then he kind of thinks to himself, okay, Rome, I've got to piece this together, what this is saying. So it's saying Rome is under one man's rule. Shall Rome stand under one man's awe? What Rome? And then he talks about, my ancestors did from the streets of Rome the Tarquin drive when he was called a king. So Rome has already had a history of bringing down rulers when they would make themselves king. Speak, strike, redress. Am I entreated to speak and to strike? Do Roman citizens want me to make a move now? Is that what's being asked of me in this note? Oh, Rome, I promise you that if the redress will follow, thou receivest thy full petition at the hand of Brutus. If you need me to act on your behalf, Rome, I'm ready. I will do that. So Brutus feels really strongly about Rome. He loves Rome. Think of people who they're very patriotic. They love our country. They may not always agree with the person who maybe is in the presidency. They may not always agree with the political power that seems to have the most people in office, but they love our country and they want to do something that is best for our country. That's where Brutus is at. Brutus loves Rome. Brutus wants to do what's best for Rome. So he's trying to figure that out. And he's got this note. It's from Roman citizens. The Roman citizens are saying, Brutus, help us out, buddy. We need help. You're in the Senate. You're a powerful man. Please help us. That's how he's reading it. Now we have a knock at the door. Gosh, I wonder who could be at Brutus's door in the middle of the night.
Since Cassius first did wet me against Caesar, I have not slept.
He has
Between
been
the
sleeping.
acting of a dreadful thing and the first motion, all the interim is like a phantasma or a hideous dream. The genius and the mortal instruments are then in council, and the state of man, like to a little kingdom, suffers then the nature of an insurrection.
Sir, 'tis your brother Cassius at the door, who doth desire to see you.
Is he alone?
No, sir, there are more with him.
Do you know them?
No, sir. Their hats are plucked about their ears, and half their faces buried in their cloaks, that by no means I may discover them by any mark of favor.
Let him enter.
Okay, so Cassius is at the door with a bunch of other men. And how do these men look? They like all have on hoodies that are drawn really tightly around their faces, so you can't see who they are. Oh no, that seems ominous. Like if a bunch of people show up at my door and they all have hoods down low so I can't see their faces, that might be a little bit disturbing. Of course, Brutus is like, oh, the conspiracy, here we go. You know, this is the group. So he's ready to talk to these men. And that's who these men are, is they're the people who are in the conspiracy against Caesar. You know, and Brutus was just talking about everything since the time Cassius spoke to him about Caesar. Everything has felt like a dream. He's not been sleeping. And everything has felt like that dreamlike state. You know, you're not able to sleep. You're not quite awake. It's somewhere in the middle. And that's kind of how life feels for him right now. Okay, so he's going to let these conspirators in.
They are the faction. Oh, conspiracy. Shamest thou to show thy dangerous brow by night, when evils are most free? Oh, then by day, where wilt thou find a cavern dark enough to mask thy monstrous visage? Seek none, conspiracy. Hide it in smiles and affability. Or if thou path thy native semblance on, not Erebus itself were dim enough to hide thee from prevention.
I think we are too bold upon your rest. Good morrow, Brutus. Do we trouble you?
I have been up this hour, awake all night. Know I these men that come along with you?
Yes, every man of them. And no man here but honors you. And everyone doth wish you had but that opinion of yourself, which every noble Roman bears of you. This is Trebonius.
He is welcome hither.
This Decius Brutus.
He is welcome too.
This Casca, this Cinna, and this Metellus Cimber.
They are all welcome. What watchful cares do interpose themselves betwixt your eyes and night?
Shall I entreat a word?
Here lies the east. Doth not the day break here?
No.
Oh, pardon, sir, it doth. And yon grey lines that fret the clouds are messengers of day.
You shall confess that you are both deceived. Here, as I point my sword, the sun arises, which is a great way growing on the south, weighing the youthful season of the year. Some 2 months hence, up higher toward the north, he first presents his fire, and the high east stands as the capital directly here.
Give me your hands all over, one by one.
And let us swear our resolution.
No, not an oath. If not the face of men, the sufferance of our souls, the time's abuse, if these be motives weak, break off betimes, and every man hence to his idle bed. So let high-sighted tyranny range on, till each man drop by lottery. But if these, as I am sure they do, bear fire enough to kindle cowards and to steal with valor the melting spirits of women, then, countrymen, what need we any spur but our own cause to prick us to redress? What other bond than secret Romans that have spoke the word and will not palter? And what other oath than honesty to honesty engaged, that this shall be, or we will fall for it? Swear priests, and cowards, and men cautelous, old feeble carrions, and such suffering souls that welcome wrongs, unto bad causes swear such creatures as men doubt, but do not stain the even virtue of our enterprise, nor the insuppressive metal of our spirits, to think that all our cause, all our performance did need an oath, when every drop of blood that every Roman bears, and nobly bears, is guilty of a several bastardy, if he do break the smallest particle of any promise that hath passed from him.
Okay, let's pause for a second. Okay, so all these men show up at Brutus's house, and Cassius tells him right away that every one of these men are supporters of you, Brutus. Everybody, all of these men that I brought with me tonight with their hoods drawn low, they admire you, Brutus, and they want you to be with us in this conspiracy to take down this threat, to take down the threat of Caesar. So he says they all have a very high opinion of Brutus. He wishes that Brutus understood how much everybody admires him. He says, No man here but honors you, and everyone doth wish you had but that opinion of yourself, which every noble Roman bears of you. So that's kind of part of Cassius's idea is everybody supports you, Brutus. Everybody loves you, Brutus. You don't know how much you're admired, how much people appreciate you. So we need you to be with us in this conspiracy. So that's part of like the lie, that the manipulation that he's using against Brutus is that Brutus has a great deal of outside support. And then the men, like Cassius says, let us swear our resolution. Let's swear on what we're going to do on this night, that we're gonna conspire to bring down Caesar. Now Brutus has a problem with this whole idea of swearing. He says, no, not an oath. He says, if not the face of men, the sufferance of our souls, the time's abuse, if these be motives weak, break off betimes, and every man hence go to bed. We don't need to swear. Like, you only have to swear if you're weak. If you mean something, you don't need to say, no, I swear. You know, if you're being honest, if you have a noble cause, you don't have to swear on something. You just have a noble cause. So Brutus really says we shouldn't have to swear. We're not weak women, is what Brutus says, which I find offensive. Throwing it out there, very offensive, Brutus. He says, so we don't need to swear on our promise to one another of what we're going to do. We're just going to do the thing. Our word is our bond. We don't need to swear. He says we're not old men, carrion, feeble carrions. Those are like men that are, aged and, they have decaying flesh. We're not those. We're not anybody who needs to swear. We are noble Roman citizens, and therefore we don't need to. Okay, let's see what Cassius says.
But what of Cicero? Shall we sound him? I think he will stand very strong with us.
Let us not leave him out.
No, by no means.
Oh, let us have him. For his silver hairs will purchase us a good opinion, and buy men's voices to commend our deeds. It shall be said his judgment ruled our hands. Our youths in wildness shall no wit appear, but all be buried in his gravity.
Oh, name him not. Let us not break with him, for he will never follow anything that other men begin.
Then leave him out.
Indeed, he is not fit.
Shall no man else be touched, but only Caesar?
Theseus, well urged.
Okay, so they had, Cassius has brought up, what about Cicero? Do we need to get Cicero on our side? Like, Cicero's kind of an older, wiser senator. He's well respected. He's another person that has a great deal of respect. Maybe we should get him to go with us on this. And Brutus says, no, we can't get Cicero. He says, for he'll never follow anything that other men begin. Do you know those people who don't like any idea but their own? Like, they feel opposed to an idea if they didn't come up with it. Well, that's how Cicero is. So Cicero's not a good person to have on the team. Like, that's terrible. And then Decius brings up this really interesting idea. Listen, guys, okay, so we're going to, take down Caesar. Okie dokie. But is there anybody else we should be taking down with him? Is it only Caesar? Let's see what they say, what Cassius says.
I think it is not meet Mark Antony, so well beloved of Caesar, should outlive Caesar. We shall find of him a shrewd contriver, and you know his means, if he improve them, may well stretch so far as to annoy us all, which to prevent, let Antony and Caesar fall together.
Our course will seem too bloody, Caius Cassius. To cut the head off and then hack the limbs, like wrath in death and envy afterwards. For Antony is but a limb of Caesar. Let's be sacrificers, but not butchers, Caius. We all stand up against the spirit of Caesar. And in the spirit of men, there is no blood. Oh, that we then could come by Caesar's spirit and not dismember Caesar. But alas, Caesar must bleed for it. And gentle friends, let's kill him boldly, but not wrathfully. Let's carve him as a dish fit for the gods. Not hew him as a carcass fit for hounds. And let our hearts, as subtle masters do, stir up their servants to an act of rage, and after seem to chide them. This shall make our purpose necessary and not envious, which so appearing to the common eyes, we shall be called purgers, not murderers. And for Mark Antony, think not of him, for he can do no more than Caesar's arm when Caesar's head is off.
Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, so Cassius says, oh yeah, good idea, Decius. Right, if we're going to kill Caesar, we need to kill Mark Antony. Yes, because Antony supports Caesar entirely. We have to take out Antony as well. If we're going to kill Caesar, we have to take Antony. So let Antony and Caesar fall together. Good idea, Decius. Yeah, good thinking. And Brutus says, whoa. Our course is going to seem too bloody if we kill Mark Antony as well. He says to cut the head off and then hack the limbs, like wrath and death and envy afterwards. For Antony's but a limb of Caesar. Let's be sacrificers, not butchers. So he compares like, okay, so Caesar is the head of this idea of like ambition and trying to take over Rome. If we cut off Caesar's head, then taking over Rome by a monarch is no longer possible. But if we go on and we take out other people who are also related to Caesar or support Caesar, so Antony is like one of Caesar's arms. That's all. He's just an arm of Caesar. So if we cut off Caesar's head, then the idea of a monarchy in Rome is dead. But then if we start hacking off limbs as well, Antony is just an arm of Caesar. If we start doing that, we're going to seem brutal. We don't want that. Like that would be a problem. We don't want to seem brutal. So probably we should just kill Caesar. If we kill Caesar and Antony, people are going to think we're murderers. But if we just kill Caesar, it's going to seem like we are taking out a threat to Rome. That's better. He talks about, he says, we'll seem like purgers, not murderers, if we kill only Caesar. If we kill Antony as well, we're going to seem like butchers. It's an interesting point that Brutus makes there. Okay, this is where I'm going to cut this scene, so I'll put the rest of it on the next video, okay?